Hey guys, Jan Taylor here. Have you ever had the need to send a summary email with details from Dynamics 365 rows? If that is the case, then definitely don't go anywhere. I'll be right back right after this. So first I want to set the stage so you can kind of understand the functionality that I'm going to show you how to build in a Power Automate flow. So the scenario is that we have salespeople that create quotes on a daily basis, but not all of the quotes are going to be completed like all the way through, right? And they might need follow-up on a later date. So the requirement is that I want to send a weekly reminder email to sales managers, and I want to only list the quotes from which the date in this effective to column falls within the week. And that's obviously using the date when this particular flow is ran. Now, this is probably not the hardest thing to do, although it's a little tricky because, right, they're date time fields. And I'm going to show you how I got the dates only, so it's going to be more accurate when we're comparing the dates, right, in Power Automate with the dates on the quotes in Dataverse. The other thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to show a clickable link that if that is actually clicked, right, it takes the sales manager directly to the quote inside of Dynamics 365. So they don't have to go into Dynamics and then search for those quotes, right? They can just click that link and that will open a quote in Dynamics 365. All right, so first of all, I actually created a view here. So let me just show you the quotes that need follow-up within 1 week. So now we're kind of filtering on this particular field. And I'm creating this video on 1/5/2023. So this is January 5th. And you can see here that it is actually including today, right? Because it's a week or right, 7 days, whatever you want to say, a week probably from today. So 1/5 is today, and then a week after 1/5 is on the 12th. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump over to my Power Automate flow, and I'm going to go ahead and test this so you can see what this looks like when it's done. I'm going to click here on Run Flow. I'm going to click here on Done. We're just going to give it a second while this runs. And there you go. And now I'm going to switch over to email. So let's pull that up. And this is the email that just came in. Let's zoom in a little bit. So you can see here that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's exactly the same amount that you saw earlier in that quote view. And then the other thing that we have here is that record link, right? I can just go ahead and click on that, and that will then open up in Dynamics 365. I'm actually going to copy the hyperlink, and then I'm going to enter that here in my browser. And there you go. That is the quote inside of Dynamics 365. So that makes it a lot easier, right? Like I said earlier, we don't have to search for those quote IDs. We can just click the link, and that's that. Okay, so let's go back to Power Automate here. Oops. And then we can start building this Power Automate flow. So here we are. I'm going to obviously create a new flow. So I'm going to go here to my flows. I'm going to say a new flow. And this is going to be, since we want this to happen on a schedule, right, every week, we're going to click here on scheduled cloud flow. So you can see here that you can add a flow name, and I'm going to say weekly quotes email, oops, to managers. You can set a start date. Let's just have this started next week at, let's do 9 a.m. So they have the entire day to talk to the sellers and tell them to work on these quotes. And then you can repeat that I'm going to say we're going to repeat that every week, and we're going to send that on Fridays. All right, then all I have to do is click here on create. And you can see here now that because this is a scheduled flow, that my recurrence is already set up, right? I entered that in the previous screen. So you can click here and edit if you need to, for example, change your frequency, or if you want to change the start time, right? So you can do that very easily directly from within here. So the next step that we're going to do here is we're going to first gather some data. So first I want to get a future time, right? Because we want to get, we said that earlier, right? We want to get the quotes where that effective date falls within that week. So I'm going to say get future time. And here we have get future time. So it's asking me for an interval, right? So I'm going to say, what am I going to do? Weeks, days, month. I want to do a week, but I'm actually going to use 8 days for this. And the reason for that is because I noticed after doing some testing that 1 week is not giving me all the data that I need. So remember I said I wanted to get all the quotes with the dates between January 5th and a week later, which is January 12th. When I used the 1 week interval, it didn't bring in the quotes that are dated on the 12th, which is the last day of that week, right? By using these 8 days, that actually fixed the issue for me. And that's why I'm using 8 days here. Now I'm going to leave this step for now. I'm actually not going to add a compose step just yet to get the actual date and not the date and the time. And I'll show you later why I'm going to do that. So the next step is going to be, I'm going to get current time. So that's exactly what it's doing. It's just getting the current time and nothing else. You can also see here that there is no additional information needed for this step, right? We're just going to be able to use these outputs. Now, in the next step, I am going to query Dataverse to get my quotes. So I'm going to say list rows. Here we go. And the table is quotes. Ooh, there's a lot here. We're going to do quotes. Here we go. And then we do want to do a little bit of filtering, right? So we want to use the effective to field. So I'm going to say the effective to field, and then you have this LE that you can see over here. That's basically where you're saying it's less than or equal to. And then you can also see that I have a single quote here. So what I want to do here is I want to first select future time, and then I want to do effective to is greater than and equal to, and again I have that quote here, which you also need to put here at the ends, and that's going to be the current time. So again, don't forget to put that single quote here. Now, if you also wanted to do a little bit of sorting of those records, and that could come in handy because that's what's going to show in that HTML table in the email. I actually did that as well. I actually did descending using that effective to date field. And the other thing I want to do here, if you remember in that email, I actually had the owner name in there as well. So I want to expand my query to also include the owning user table in there as well. And that's why I'm adding that over here. All right, now the next step that we want to do is to create that HTML table. So I'm going to do next step. I'm going to type in create HTML table. That should hopefully find it. It should be underneath here. Here we go. Create HTML table. And it's going to, you can see here, you have some options here. The first thing is that where's the source for this HTML table? And that's based on the quotes, right? So that's in my list row step. So I'm going to click here on value because that's that list of items. And I don't want the system to automatically create my columns. I want to do that manually. So two different things you see here. First, you have the header. So if I go back and grab my email, the header is what you see over here, all of these headers over here. And then the values is what you see below here, right? The list of those rows. So header, first I'm going to say quote ID. Now, if I enter quote ID in here, even though I hit space, I actually wasn't able to put that space in here. So there's a quick tip here where you can just use Notepad. You can just, type in quote ID with the space. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that in here. So you can see that that's very easy to do. And then you can see that the next line already for that header opens up. So I'm going to use quote. I'm going to use owner. That's going to be that owner name, right? Obviously, we're going to use the effective to field. And then I also wanted to enter a URL in there. So again, these are our headers. Now we need to pull in the values, right, from that list rows action. So the first thing is obviously quote ID. And then we want the quote name. And then we want the owner. Now, since again, we included that user table, I'm going to do full name. Here we go. This is the reason, or these fields are coming up because, let's pull this out again, because we're expanding the query to include that owning user table. So let me do that again. Full name, owning user, full name. Then we have the effective to field. And if you run this and you're not going to do any sorts, you're not going to try to like format this, it's actually going to look very ugly. So I have a little bit of formatting that I'm using here, and I'm going to pull up my Notepad again. And this is what that is going to look like. So you can make this a little bit bigger. So you can see here, I'm actually converting this into the US Eastern Standard Time. And then you can also see month, days, and years. So let me just go ahead and copy that. So you're going to click here into that value over here, that value field. Then you're going to click on expression, and you can just enter that expression in here, and then you can click OK. And there is our converted date. Then we have our URL field. Now, this is a little bit more complicated. I would definitely check out the article that I wrote about what this is, how this works, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you what that looks like. Let's pull up my Notepad again. This, as you can see, is a very long line here of text, right? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put in the URL of your instance. You can see that in the beginning. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put in the app ID. So that's the Sales Hub in my particular case. And then you can see here, you're going to stop where it says quote ID and then equals, right? And then you're going to also put this little single quote in here. And then we're going to get the quote ID. And then you can see here, we're adding some text here that says record link. That's what you also showed, what I showed in, let's see here, in this email message as well, right? So that's really what is going to show inside of this particular URL box that you see over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click here on URL. I'm going to put in the expression and I'm going to say, okay. Now, by just doing this for this URL field, it's actually not going to look very good. And I'm going to show you that in a second, but I'm not going to do that compose action yet to complete that because I want to show you what that looks like. So then what I'm going to do, my next step here is to send an email from a shared mailbox. Obviously, you can also send it from your own inbox, but then you get all of those out of offices back. So that's why I created a shared mailbox that I'm sending these messages from. So this is actually called sales communications. Here we go. And this is going to be sent to people that are in the sales reports group here, as you can see. Then you can put a subject in. So I'm just going to do quotes that need follow up. There you go. And then what I want to do is, oops, I do not need to show the advanced options at this point. What I want to do is I want to embed my HTML table inside of this email, but I also want it to look good, right? We want to show some nice borders, right? If I go back here again, you can see here we have some borders over here that looks nice. So because of that, I want to go ahead and add some HTML to this. And again, this is also, if you want that HTML code, that's also on the website in this particular article. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that in. But before I can do that, you have to click here on Code View. And then I'm going to just paste that in here. Now you can see here, it already says output. So I'm going to get rid of that, because what I want to do here is I want to get the output of my HTML table here. And again, I told you earlier, this is not going to look good yet. And I'm going to show you how. So that's the output. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to test that. So first I'm going to save this. And it's just taken, here we go. And now we're going to test this. And we're going to do this manually. We're going to click test and we're going to run the flow. And it ran successfully. So let's go back to Outlook. And this is what it looks like now. So this is what I was talking about, right? That it's really not showing a very nice URL. So we're going to fix this with another compose action. I'll show you in a second why that is. You also see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually have 5 quotes in here. And the correct one had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quotes in there. So it also looks like it has different owners in here as well. So, right, this is from the 13th. That is incorrect. That is a week and a day after today. So that's not correct. And you can also see that I don't get the quotes that I got on my previous email dated 1/5, right? I don't get these guys here. So that's the reason that I actually want to do something here after the get future time step and the current time step. That's the reason for that. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to click here on, I'm going to add a step here. I got to click edit first after get future time. So I'm going to go ahead and add an action. And this is a compose step. Here we go. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to format the output of this get future time step. And the way we can do that is to actually, let me delete this here for a second. We can go back to the flow that just ran. And if you look here at get future time, you can see that this is what it spits out. Right, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put this in my notepad. So I'm going to get rid of this and I just want this. So this is what it spits out here when I say get future time. And you get something similar for current time. You get the same thing. The only thing is that it would probably, let's just actually take a look at it. Here we have our outputs. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, copy that below, right? So this doesn't look very nice, right? So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go to edit. And again, I'm going to add that compose step. Here we go. And I want to do an expression to, like I said, make that the data that we're getting back in this get future step, right? It's going to go run through this compose, and then we're only getting the date. All right, so the way that I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to use this format data by examples. So I'm going to say this is actually based on get future time right here. And I'm going to enter some examples. So that's why I put that in Notepad. So this is what he spit out, this one. And I want this showing as 01/13/2023. I can add another example. We have 2 examples there, right? So let's grab this one as well and say, if this is the output, then I want 01/05/2023, right? That's what we want. Now we can get an expression, and we can even test it here. We can say, let's just put this in here. Let's just say this is January 25, and let's test it. Oh, this is not 25. Hello. Tested. Yeah, that's correct. So now it's spitting out that expression for us, and we can either copy and paste it and so put it in that input, or we can just hit apply over here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit apply, and look at that. We just created this expression very easily. And again, this is now just going to spit out that particular date. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to add an action. I'm going to do compose. See here, compose. And I can do the same thing here, but since I already have this expression, I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here because I just showed you how you can do that. So I'm just going to do this. What I am going to do is I'm going to rename this. I'm going to say this is, oops, rename. This is the future, and this is a date only. And this is the current date, right? There's no time now. All right, perfect. So then what we do need to do here, since we were using the get future time and current time to filter, I'm going to change this. I'm going to set this now to the output of the future time. And this is going to be the output of the current time. And you'll see this is good because we will get the correct list of records now. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. Now you also saw that that HTML table did not look good at all in here, right? And the reason for that is very simple. Again, check out my article where I have some details. I'm going to show this to you pretty quickly. I'm going to go back here to that previous run, and I'm going to show you the create HTML table, the output, and we want to see the raw outputs. Now look at this. It's actually adding a lot of stuff here. And for example, we want to remove these things. We want to remove, there's some other things in here as well. And of course, I can't really get to it. We want to remove this ANGT, like all that stuff. Again, I have listed it on my website, what you should look for. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do another compose step, and then I'm going to remove all of those things from that HTML table. And I'm going to do that by using a replace. So again, I'm going to hit plus here. And again, if you want that code, then you can go to the article, which I will put inside the comments here as well. So I'm just going to do an expression. I'm going to click OK. Let me just very quickly paste this in Notepad for you so you can take a look at that, right? So I'm replacing from the body of the create HTML table, I'm replacing these, right? The N sign, LT, and right, if they're together grouped like that, I'm going to remove this, then again this, and then I'm going to replace this or remove that. Basically, I'm going to replace it with nothing, which equals removing. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to remove these quotes. And when you do that, that will actually turn that into a clickable link. So now what we want to do is we want to get this output, right? Because this is cleaned up. This is cleaning up that HTML table. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to look for, It's still compose. Yeah, I'm going to look for the output of compose. I'm going to save that. And let's give it a whirl. Hit test and run that flow. Okay. That is looking good. So let's go back here to Outlook. And here is our quote. And it is looking exactly the way we want to look at. So first of all, right, we're not seeing that quote from 1013. We are also seeing the quotes from 1.5, right? And we have that URL in there as well. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss another video again. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.